Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and I'm joined tonight by none other than Mess Around Dave. And then, of course, our very special guest. We got to welcome him back again. And he's known as, that's right, the mercenary Garrisaon Creed. How you doing tonight, my man?
Thanks very much, Ace. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I'm just going to relax in here after a long weekend.
Yeah, so I heard... I heard it was kind of a long weekend for you, and you kind of had how many matches did you have this past weekend?
It was two, but it was just a lot of driving. I was over at OVW in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's that right there is an 8-hour drive. And then I had another show on Saturday in Memphis, Tennessee, and that was 6 hours from Louisville. So made it on up and inside Chicago, hanging out by a friend.
All right, so if you don't mind, how'd those matches end up turning out for you?
You'll just have to read up on Ohio Valley Wrestling and what goes on over there to read about that one. I'll let you find out that way. And then I was in a triple threat match down in Memphis, Tennessee, and their rookie there he came out on top on that one. So kind of congrats to that guy.
You know what though? Before we go on, I still want to show you. I'm repping tonight, my man.
Absolutely. And they're great quality too. You got to give it to them, boot and heel, right?
Oh, boot and heel, absolutely. So, do you have any big time matches that are coming up that you kind of want to throw out there and talk about?
If I can get the date right, I believe it's June 17th. It's Wrestling for a Cause outside in the Chicago area. Rocket Pro is going to have one match on that show, and it's going to be their champion right now, Chris Logan versus Marche Rocket versus yours truly in a triple threat for their heavyweight championship. Other than that, right now, I know we got a couple of things in the works. We have Chicagoland Wrestling coming on up. You'll see this soldier take on Zeke Kickham. And then after that, I got Chicago style wrestling coming on up. The cards aren't revealed yet. I'm not sure what's going on with that. And when I get there.
All right, I love it. So mess around. We'll go ahead and start out with you two. Do you have any questions for Mr. Creed here?
How is the travel between shows? Is that very stressful for you?
I kind of give a hats off to some of my military experience with being constantly on the move for the 5 years that I was in there between different training setups, deployments, so on. I kind of got accustomed to this very nomadic wanderer aspect. Just kind of adopted it now. Where I work, how far I'm going to travel, and how much I'm going to rough it on the trip. I'm having a good.
Well, you know what? You can't ask for more, especially when you're enjoying it. Now, there's a lot of talks going on about all these the two big wrestling industries that you see right now with WWE and AEW. Okay, so yeah. What is your take on AEW? Do you think that they can actually compete with WWE?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have the money-making machine that Tony Khan is attached to backing AEW. So financially, they can do everything that WWE does. At the same time, though, it's not a direct competition because it's not the same product. You're not going to see the same type of matches over at WWE or NXT even that you're going to see at AEW and vice versa. Just because you get some former stars from WWE jumping ship over there, it doesn't mean that they're going to be doing the same characters, movesets, or anything like that. Look at formerly known as the Revival. They've upped their game. They got more of an indie-rific style now, and they're turning it up in there. But they're still, doing the same bangers there that they were doing over at NXT. But it's clearly a different product. So AEW, hats off to them. I think they're going to be they're going to be in the game for a long time.
So have you been pretty impressed with some of the performances that they've been putting on?
I've been impressed with a lot of the opportunities that they're giving guys. They're bringing in a lot of guys, so a lot of people are getting looked at. Even if it's just a couple on dark, they can go on and take that experience and put that out there in the rest of the indie world. Or if they're actually legitimately picking guys up and having them only over in Jacksonville for them. Um, not, but at the same time, they're also tripping on their crank quite a bit. I mean, production issues. Some of the guys aren't as exactly TV ready and smooth in the ring. Um, but I still think they're going to be a heavy player.
Yeah, that whole end to when
Oh yeah.
John Moxley took on Kenny Omega, and then they had that whole sparkler.
Yeah, Goldberg's entrance turned into Gilbert.
Right? Yeah, that was. Yeah, so that was like one of the big things where everyone's like, well, if they can't come up with a good like explosion, how are they going to do anything else? But
but for all we know, maybe that was the plan, and that's what they want us to see. Is that hey, no matter what can happen, professional wrestling is real, even when it does screw up. So we don't know exactly what they want us, the fans, the product takers, the consumers. They don't want to know what they're doing. They're just kind of putting it out there for us.
Yeah, and so jumping over to the WWE side a little bit, if you don't mind answering this question, there was some talks that people are talking about how it's time for Vince McMahon to kind of step down because they don't like the direction that WWE's going.
And they've been saying that for years. I mean, key word is as much as they say they don't like where it's going or what they're doing, it's his company, and it's turning a buck. They're making money. So even though everybody's saying they're doing, they're not doing the right thing, they're looking at the numbers, and the numbers are saying they are. So I mean, that's what their take on is. And you're not going to see any major changes unless of a passing the family and such, and then you can see a bit of a directorial redistribution, new route. But even then, I don't think it's going to swerve much from where it is now.
So, do you think that when Vince decides to step down, that Shane McMahon or Stephanie will take over the reins, or do you think it'll probably be like Triple H?
I don't exactly know the hierarchy of the WWE, but I'm going to say from a more creative standpoint, they'll have Triple H kind of heading that area. Talent-wise, much she's already doing. Stephanie's very involved with that. And Shane, well, he's just another business guy in there, roped on in, making sure that's all of a success. And getting his last couple of moments in the ring that he can.
I like it. So we do have a few questions for you, Garrison. So one question we have for you is, how was Tampa?
The best of times and the worst of times. Business-wise, it was great. I got to go sit underneath the learning tree of a couple of influential folk. I got to get a lot of feedback from people that I've worked with very early on or came across early on in my career. That I had a couple of full circle moments and have them come on up to me and recognize some of the things I've been doing on the road, which it was just huge. It's just humbling when somebody then it gets called out, it gets noticed. I had one hell of a match with Mambo Italiano out there that I was very proud of, and a very proper representation of the job and work ethic that I bring to the ring. So hopefully Tampa got a great taste of that, and I'll be seeing a lot more of Tampa. On the flip side, some of the downsides of travel, I had a couple of hotel issues, some really bad booking people with rooms. And then I also got in a bit of a car accident, so I had the mumbo jumbo with that going on. So it was great though. It was worth it. I did a lot of great stuff. I did a lot of great business. Just a couple of bumps along the road.
All right, mess around. What you got for him? You have anything?
I'm just looking to sub up online about your matches that you just had this past weekend or whatever. The last one on May 6th. You and Heath Halton, I think it says.
Heath Hatton, yeah. Over at OVW, they're interested in seeing the two of us work together. I would say we need to get on the same page a little bit more. We had some moments where we clicked, but again, I've never worked with him. I've never had much of a conversation with him before that day. So it was very much, hey, we're gonna throw you in the hot skillet and see what comes out.
I like it. So we have a comment here on the side, and it's kind of funny because you were talking about WWE and AEW. So that comment says WWE is Amazon and AEW is Wish.com.
Hey, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Again, it's two different products. Maybe you like what the WWE's got. There's a lot of it's very, they've been doing it for generations. They know what they're doing. AEW's new. It's gonna be a different product, and they're showing that indie revolution that they got going on and stuff that Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were able to forefront. That's the kind of product that they're presenting. And really, if you start taking a fine tooth comb and a magnifying glass, you're going to see the two are not very much alike at all.
So, since you watch AEW, I watch a little bit of it myself. Is there somebody in AEW that you're like, man, I would love to have a match against right now?
Right now, I mean Darby Allin. I really wasn't a fan of him until I realized here's a very small scrapper type of a guy, and he fights like a small scrapper type of a guy with a never say die attitude. So I mean, I've been kind of turning to wanting to match with him. Maybe having chances with guys like Matt Hardy that are around. And there's a whole list of again. I'm not the guys, so throw me in there with Pentagram. I mean, I'll do what I can. It'd be a great match, a great experience for myself. But mostly about AEW, I like watching Dark. So now I'm seeing other guys all across the Indies getting an opportunity on a big screen, on a big stage to show off what they got. And it humbles me knowing that I got friends that are out there striving, trying to get to that next level.
Yeah, I always thought that was actually a clever idea that AEW decided to take AEW Dark and make that. I'm like, that was brilliant because that to me actually gives a lot of, I would say, the younger talent, the up and coming talent. It gives them a chance to go out there and perform in front of people.
And the exposure. I mean, look at the guys they've picked up. They've picked up a fair amount of their talent now that are just they're turning them into superstars on the main stage, on their main show.
I like it. So we do have another comment here that says, can you explain your online show?
Oh, my online show? I've been doing, they were kind of very spontaneous for a bit. That's Garrisaon Creed shooting range. At the time, really, it was anything that was kind of like, bothering me on my mind, something I want to thought about. So I went on out there. And it turned into, I was talking about some of my own dealings with PTSD and mental health, trying to make sure that I'm still good to go amongst seeing, how everybody else deals with it, because everybody deals with everything differently. I had another one where I was reaching out to people going through COVID, seeing how everybody's holding up, because, I mean, again, mental health, and now everybody's, cooped up at home. They're not able to do anything. But now I'll just let you know that there's a couple of changes coming on up. It's no longer going to be just a solo show. You're not going to just hear me rambling on all the time. It's going to be an interview segment, and it will be in development very soon. I should have probably end of June. I'll probably get some taping done and have that ready to go, and you'll get to see a different side of the shooting range.
And I'll tell you what, I cannot wait to see that. That's going to be brilliant. From what you've explained to me, I'm like, dude, this is going to be great. I like the route that you're taking it, and I must say, you're going with the short hair now. I just noticed that. You last time, never. Okay, you got.
Never mind. I've turned to the dark side. I don't know if I can say it on here. Bleep it if you have. But I've turned to wearing the bitch biscuit.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I did not see that. I just thought that you had cut the hair and made it shorter, but I got it. I like it.
No, yeah, just gotta keep it tied down once in a while. Otherwise, it gets in everything, including my food.
Yeah, and you know what? I must say that picture that you posted of you on Facebook, I thought was really, really cool. Where you're flying in the air and you're doing, man, that's awesome.
I've gotten a couple of shots in the last 3 or 4 shows of me doing that moonsault from different angles. And I don't know. I'm humbled because these are really awesome shots, and now I get to share them with the world, and I'm getting this excellent feedback from them. I'm like, hey, it's the photographers that were able to do it. I just did the spot.
Right. My big question for you is, how difficult is it to come up with a finishing move? Because I know that there's so many of them out there that you're like, I got to try and come up with something new.
Right. And in all honesty, I have my moveset, but I'm not married to it. I'm not just going to do those moves all the time. I've been known to use a stolen driver that we come to call a stolen valor driver. For a while, I was using just a frog splash. I didn't even name it, but I was getting great reviews of like how I was able to, be this 225-pound guy doing a frog splash. And I'm thinking Eddie Guerrero, but anywho, and then I've been known to just use a DDT. It's all in how you put together the match and you come up with the outcome that you want.
I like it. So you don't really have one; you have multiple, pretty much that you can use.
Right. I mean, there's guys on out there. I'm not going to get some of these guys on my shoulders to be able to throw them up over my head. Sorry, big strong guy, but I'm not that big strong. So I got to think of other ways. It brings a level of reality, realism to what I'm doing. So, all right, that's why I do it.
How about submissions? Those seem like those are difficult.
They are. And again, I as if you've been watching my career for the last 5 years, the product from not from 2018 to the product that now in the early parts of 2021, they're not the same product. You don't see exactly the same guy out there, and you shouldn't. So I'm keeping a couple of those things, like the submissions in the back pocket, and we'll see how those pop out over time.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because I know we call them, so in sports when it comes to like football and stuff, we call them like armchair GMs, but then you have what we call armchair wrestlers that are sitting at home and they tell you
armchair bookers.
Yeah, and they're watching a match and they're like, oh well, that's easy, they kind of botched that, I could do it. I'm like, you know what? That's not as easy as it seems out there, because it takes a lot. And I know that from what I've heard in the past too, is that sometimes you don't get a lot of times to prep. Like once you show up there, they're like, this is the person you're going against. You might have a few minutes to be like, okay, you have to decide what the ending is, and then you kind of just have to go out there and do it.
Then you're going on out there and you're having an AWA match from 1982. It's easy. You're going to go out there and you're going to give the fans what they want or not want, and do what you can. If you got to go on out there and call everything in the ring, well, by God, you got to call it in the ring. Better be able to do it too.
Right, and that's probably got to take a lot of training, though, just to know it at some point to how to communicate in the ring without actually having everybody hear you and stuff like that. That's got to take a lot of training.
Just grab the guy and go.
Just grab him and go. Yeah, because I've heard videos in the past, like it was like Big Show one time in the Royal Rumble. You could clearly hear him come out and say something, and I'm like, man, you got to tone it down. You're like, you can't be so loud out there. But
there's an art to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I give you guys props for everything you guys go out there and do, because I know. I can almost tell you how much training that it absolutely takes. And it's like you said, in the matches that I've seen, because I've gone back and I've watched a lot of your matches, and from the time you first started until now, I have seen so much improvement over time. And I know that when you first get out there in your first match, it's probably nerve-wracking like crazy out there.
Oh, right. And you're going on out there with a mindset that you know what you're doing, and then a year later, you realize I had no clue what I'm doing. I mean, I think I know what I'm doing now, but again, like 3 or 4 years down the road, I'm going to go, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing yet. So we're always learning, changing, and having the new experience.
So how did you get booked for your first match?
Lucky enough that there was something going on with one of the one of the graduates from the school that I went through locally. So I went through and did that. And then I started helping out with other local promotions and things like that, just offering security work, offering to help set up the ring, and over time, growing those relationships, just with opportunity. Um, every show you're networking with other workers, other people are with. So I mean, from there, yeah, I'm working on one show to the next. But then after a while, now I'm getting lined up for multiple shows just by going on out there networking.
So I'm sure you've seen the movie The Wrestler before.
I have not. It's
Oh,
on
you
the
haven't
list.
seen that? Wow.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm. It takes me forever to actually sit down and watch anything on TV. It's not in my normal daily. I have to force myself to sit down to watch wrestling because I'm not used to sitting in front of the flashy screen.
Oh, okay.
So it's on my list. I don't have a copy of it. I want to watch it. Just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, so the only reason I ask is because when you watch it, it kind of shows a lot of the backstage stuff that kind of happens, to where he calls and says, you know what, you can put me in this show. I'm going to do this show. Just tell me the time and the date. So is it kind of like that to where you can kind of call at times and like book yourself and be like, I'm going to be in it. I'll be there.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it's all becomes the agreement between you and who's running the shows. Um, and I mean, there may be an area where I want to work. There's somebody I'm going to be there, or there's somebody I want to see and talk to specifically. So I'll be like, hey, I'm going to be in the area. I'll show up. The gear's in the van, just so you know I'm there. And as soon as I walk in the door, somebody's there to greet me and says, yeah, by the way, we're using you tonight. That's you. That's happened a lot. Um, so really, yeah, it's all playing by ear and how your relationships with promoters and bookers are.
So that must be one of the hardest things to really do is kind of show up and they go, oh, change of plans. You're going to wrestle. So it's like
Yeah,
a last minute thing, kind of get thrown out there.
so it's a lot of times it's actually easier than you think. I mean, because you're talking to the guys that are writing the story for the show. If you're talking with the guy that can change it, he wants to change it, he'll change it.
All right, so we have a question for you. They said, what promotion that you have worked did you like? Do you really enjoy working for?
I love working for Chicago style, out of Chicago area. Chicagoland Championship Wrestling is another one. Rocket Pro Wrestling has given me opportunities and a format to stay on. That's been awesome. Um, Giving Minnesota some love. I love going on over and working for Ed Hellier over at Steel Domain Wrestling. Um, on the road with Canadian Wrestling's Elite, ran by Danny Duggan. That's a very unique experience. It's a very old school way of doing everything, but I love those experiences and the education I was able to get from the other guys nationwide, worldwide, even guys from Japan, even being there and learning from them. And right now, the OVW locker room itself is growing on me a lot. So it's kind of nice to have these almost feels like in my own backyard uh, locker rooms to be in, but they're almost, across North America now.
So if you had advice for, let's say, a younger individual that wanted to get into wrestling, if he's been watching wrestling let's say he started watching it at a young age and he's right around like 15 or 16 and he's like, you know what, that's something I want to do. What type of advice would you have for somebody that wanted to?
That at that young of an age, one, if he really wants to do it, be in shape. Especially at that age, you're very malleable. You can develop pretty much any type of physique you want. Um, don't narrow wrestling down to the only path that you're going. Have a skill trade maybe lined up. Go and get a college degree. Go get some certificates, but don't narrow everything around life just down to, okay, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. That's it. Otherwise, then you're going to do that for 10 years, realize maybe it's not quite working for you, 15 years not quite working for you, and now you got to depend back on that degree that you got way back when, or that skill job. all you're just going to be going away to local temp service, getting whatever $10, $11 an hour job you got. You got to have that backup concept.
All right, so you have a question that says, who do you hope to work with one-on-one or as a tag team?
Oh, and what context? I mean, we can go across the board on this. I mean, there's plenty of talent in NXT. I would love to work with Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. Who wouldn't right now? These guys are fire. On the indies themselves, on the lower levels, Logan Creed. It's been pretty well known for the last year. I've been trying to show up where he's at, and vice versa. We want to see how that would that chemistry will come out. Brian Pillman Jr. would be awesome being there. I've had a couple of conversations with him before. The entire business and the legacy that he represents. So I would just like to be able to have the opportunity to be in the ring with somebody like that. I mean, and we can go all the way up the ladder. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor.
Seth Rollins.
I'm really impressed with a lot of guys over at NXT UK. I mean, any number of Draco, Dragonoff. There's a guy I would love to throw hands with in a ring sometime. Again, I mean, what context do you want? That would be challenging for a spot, pretty much.
I am so glad that you said Seth Rollins, because on our Between the Ropes show that we do every Sunday, I've always said how one of my favorite WWE wrestlers right now is Seth Rollins. I just think he's so talented overall that I don't know. It's just something about him.
Well, not only is he talented, he's very highly influential. He's got his own professional wrestling school, Black and Brave, that he's involved with. I've been coming across a lot of those boys on the road, boys and girls, and they're all working their asses off. Those are the kids that are coming out of that school, amazing talents. But I mean, the way that I see Seth Rollins and the time that I've been just like, when I pick out somebody and I want to study their stuff, it's very eerily like HBK for his character work and going on out there and kind of changing things up over time. He's constantly working on it, but not at the same time. He's still Seth Rollins. I just I adore watching it and see what's going on. Showing that the smaller guy, the 190, 200 pounder, be the face of the company.
So, do you have a favorite WWE wrestler right now?
It changes by the day. It depends on who I'm studying at the moment. I mean, I've gone through my Rick Rude phase. I'm digging Roman Reigns right now. I wasn't for the longest time, and he took the chest protector off, and there we go. We're off to the races. Finn Balor, all his stuff. It just depends on the day and who I'm studying, and just what mindset I'm at that day. Because like any opinion, it can change.
Yeah, so to be perfectly honest with you, I've never been a big Roman Reigns fan. I think to me when I watch when I watch a match, I want to see somebody that can actually perform, kind of like a high flyer, got a lot of in-ring talent. But when I look at Roman Reigns, just something about it that I think he's more like a 5 moves of doom guy. Like, he can't go past that. And so for me, that kind of bugs me. And I'm like, I don't know.
Now, does it bug you because that Roman Reigns is one of those guys, or does it bug you because you don't like those guys? I mean, and you can't argue with the technical 5 moves of death thing. Hulk Hogan, John Cena. These guys made a lot of money. As Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, if you want to throw them in there, they're 2 guys that can work, but they go on out there and they throw mitts. Again, they made a lot of money. So as much as like maybe the opinion was I don't like those 5 moves of death guys, Roman Reigns is making a lot of money. Can't argue that.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. And I think maybe sometimes too, as a wrestling fan, when I'm watching it on TV, sometimes I feel like Roman and maybe a few other guys, WWE tends to be like, this is our guy, so we're gonna push them down everybody's throat. So sometimes I feel like they're being pushed too hard and being pushed too hard to like.
You can maybe have that feeling, and I mean I've had that feeling, but really again it goes back to what's making them money. They got more of a formula on there than a gut feeling. So I mean when they say they put the championship on Brock Lesnar, but they only bring him in 4 times a year. They
Yeah.
look at those 4 dates that Brock Lesnar's on. They look at those ticket sales and the pay-per-view sales, and notice a level of uptick in all that money that came on just because he's there. They're gonna read that and go, "All right, that's why." If Roman Reigns ain't on the card, and they notice a significant downtick in that in that number, bring him back. Notice it goes up. They're going to put them on whether really we're booing them or hating them.
Well, see, that makes sense. I just could never figure out. I'm like, what is it about this guy that they just always constantly stick him out there? And I'm like, it just bugs me. I'm like, I can't stand to watch the guy.
And that's why he's doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, because his heel run right now, he's supposed to make you kind of hate him. But I never personally liked him when he was a face.
Makes perfect sense to turn him heel then.
Right? Yeah. No, it really does.
Look at how many people look at it. I mean, spoilers, but it's been a little bit. Everybody's seen WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it happens when he put Daniel Bryan on top of Edge and pinned them both. It's great when Hulk Hogan slams Andre the Giant, and you can feel the electricity through the crowd because the good guy prevailed, and it made that energy. You can do the same thing, draining that energy out of that crowd. Now they're booing them. Booing them through the floor. But now week after week, everybody's gonna be buying tickets because they want to go see the shows to see that guy get jacked in the jaw.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense because I'll tell you what, I was one of those guys that when I was watching Mania and Reigns came out and pinned him, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, I thought tonight was going to be for sure the night that Reigns was going to lose the title, and I was so frustrated that I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me right now.
They want the emotion. It's not always great positive emotion. They may want that draining out of you emotion. You feel strongly against what happened. And man, they worked that entire crowd and made that happen. There's a collective punch to the gut in every fan in that stadium, and they couldn't breathe.
Oh, absolutely. I was shocked. Like, there was so many boos going on and everything else that I'm like, oh, wow, I was not expecting it to end like that. You could towards the end, I could see it coming to where I'm like, uh-oh, it's going to happen. Once I saw the concerto, I'm like, oh, no, it's happening. It is happening. And then it happened. I was like, oh, here we go again. And
oh, yeah, it's not ending for a long time.
Yeah. I can see it going like that right now to where it's definitely not going to end for a while. So when you think about WrestleMania here for a second and think about the Undertaker streak. To you, how impressive was that streak?
I'm still impressed by it got as far as it did before anybody noticed it.
Right.
His 12th win is when they started calling it the streak. They didn't realize what was happening. I mean, they sure weren't having that happen when they had Giant Gonzalez get disqualified from the Undertaker match and that let him win. I'm sure that wasn't part of the plan. But then they continued it, and like Taker said in many interviews, it took a life of its own. Now, it's not that as the Undertaker, he's got to go prepared for this show. It's just this specific show you have to be prepared for, otherwise it's going to eat you alive. And I almost felt that with Taker, having that weight on his shoulders for so long, it was getting there, and like physically wasn't able to do it. I mean, those last ones, I mean, they're all great, but you can kind of see the sands of time we're starting to get there.
Yeah, and so I've always wondered too, because I know they had like 3 people prior to Brock Lesnar that they said, hey, this person should end the streak. Like they had envisioned maybe Edge, and they asked Edge, and Edge is like, I don't want to do it. And then they asked Randy Orton, and Randy Orton's like, I don't want to do it. And then CM Punk, and CM Punk's like, I don't want to do it. So why do you think these guys are like, I don't want to be that guy to end the streak, when you know that if they did, they would be huge because they would be that one?
And how do we know that when Brock Lesnar was the guy that did it, that was the booking of the day? They did, whether planned or not, the WWE did a great job on hiding the fact that was a work or not.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard stories that are going both ways, guys in the locker room saying it. They did a great story or a great time.
I have.
Just like the Montreal screw job of working the work. So even, who knows, maybe Undertaker was never meant to lose it. And then he did because of injury or whatnot, or however things happened in the match. Perhaps maybe in another universe, he was never actually meant to lose it.
Yeah. My thing was, though, like, why do you think that guys like Edge and them would say that they don't want to be that guy to end the streak?
I wouldn't want to be that guy either. I mean, it would have been huge for a career, but I think that may have gotten so much energy into that person's career, so much heat, if you want to call it that you're just going to burn away the candle. That was to be, the payload, and that's it. They bring you anywhere. And he was worthy enough to get that much of a career jump from that one win. So for all we know, Brock Lesnar doing it, was it a guy level enough that he could actually take all that heat and not burn with his career?
Yeah, so let's say, for instance, that Brock Lesnar was supposed to win that match. Let's say that it was supposed to be like that. Do you personally feel like Brock Lesnar was the right choice?
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, the guy, again, going just if we're going to go bare bone numbers, the ticket sales alone, that guy was the guy who did it. Talent in the ring, more like the legitimacy. If anybody was going to be good, it's this huge natural monster of a man who's done undescribable things across all sports, MMA, football, professional wrestling. He had possibly the only resume that was capable of doing that.
Which makes sense. It's just when it first happened, I questioned it at first. Like any other wrestling fan, I was watching it and I questioned it. I'm like, was really Lesnar, should he have been the guy? And then going back and thinking about it, now that Lesnar's been gone for a little while, and I'm like, wow, I'm really kind of missing Lesnar right now. I was like, I wish he would kind of make an appearance and come back. So I'm like, maybe that was the right call to have him.
But give it a couple of years, he'll come back and he'll host WrestleMania.
Yeah, he definitely. I could definitely see that. Now, I did watch an interview with Paul Heyman when they were asking him about that match, and Heyman was like, "I'm not going to directly come out and tell you whether Lesnar was actually supposed to win that match, but I will say that when they asked Lesnar to go up against Undertaker at Mania, Lesnar came out and said, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy that beats him." And Heyman's like, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you whether he was supposed to or not. I'm not doing that. And so when he came out and said that, I'm like, something made me think that he wasn't supposed to win that match. And unless he's just saying that just to kind of cause a little stir to make people think, was it actually supposed to happen?
You want the carnies to make sure that everybody falls under the whole thing? We're out there, and I mean, the cat's out of the bag. We're out there trying to portray a combat sport. In a way, that means that combat sport still happens, and you don't know where it is.
Okay, that makes sense. We have a comment though that says that from what they read, that Undertaker actually wanted Reigns to break his streak.
I've heard of that one too. It's very possible. I've heard that one.
So thinking back of all the maybe like older time WWE wrestlers, WWF or whatever, is there like a dream match that you would have loved to see in general? Because I know people talk about like Undertaker Sting. People said that that would be a dream match. Maybe like Seth Rollins, Shawn Michaels.
I mean, Seth Rollins, Shawn Michaels. I mean, that may have had a sliver of a time where you could have Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles. I was seeing some about Bret Hart and Kurt Angle.
Oh yeah,
one that would have been. And it did happen. One of that was a dream match for me until I, finally decided to look it up on Google. Bret Hart and Chris Benoit. Excellent.
I never knew that happened.
It did happen. It happened on a WCW Monday Nitro. I mean, you got any level of these dream matches. One I was curious about for a long time: Rey Mysterio or Taka Michinoku. I mean, the two premier cruiserweights at the time. Those are guys that I was curious about who would come out on top.
Wow, yeah. It's something about that Undertaker Sting. Everybody talks about that one. But to me personally, I've always said that I would love to see Seth Rollins versus Shawn Michaels, because I like to watch those technical wrestlers in the ring, and I think that would be good. Or somebody like a Daniel Bryan, because if I remember right, Daniel Bryan was trained by Shawn Michaels, I do believe. That was like the rumors or something like that.
Nope, he's long there with the Brian Kendrick. They came on Shawn Michaels wrestling school when he had that down in Texas.
Okay, so that's why he was such a technical guy. Or you could have had like a CM Punk versus Shawn Michaels, and
there was one. I mean, that's another one that would be out there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talks right now with people asking whether they truly believe that CM Punk will ever make another appearance in WWE, and I'm like, oh man, I'm waiting for that day.
I honestly, here's my opinion on that. My opinion is worth 2 cents. I think it's amusement right now. He's sitting back. He's made his money. He's done this stuff, and he's probably enjoying it. And he probably gets a kick out of all this internet hype when, he might come back. And he's maybe poking the bear, just watching it and sitting back home and having a laugh.
So maybe deep down inside, he already knows if he's doing it or not. He's just kind of laughing about it and thinking, you know what, just cause a stir.
Yeah. I would.
Right? If you know it's funny, if you know it's really, really, really funny, and it happens. So, we have that says they would love to see CM Punk come back, but they don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, no. In the back of my head, I don't think it's going to happen either. But you never know. Everybody's got a price. Everybody's got a price, and they might hit it.
He does. Well, and that's why I don't remember who the interview was with, but CM Punk came out and he was talking about it, and they're like, would you ever come back? And CM Punk was like, they would have to pay me a pretty good amount of money to get me to come back. But if they did, I'd probably do it. And so, that's what it's saying.
He may even have the number written down at home, and he goes and checks it every once in a while to see where the offers are landing.
Right, and be like, maybe, because I'm sure they've called him a couple times to give him an offer of coming back, and he's like, no, I'm not quite there yet. I'm not ready to come back yet. It's just, I just thought he might have been, because they do that whole, it's like the pre-show or whatever, and he was on there. So at that point, he was on their
Sports Center wrestling bit that he had for a brief moment there.
Yeah. So I was like, man, maybe. And then when it came out that like, no, he's not coming back, I'm like, oh man, that sucks. So we also have somebody that says every time I reached first. Okay. So we have somebody. So Tim, that was on here right before the show. He was actually also wearing your shirt, and he's actually playing in a softball game tonight. And he said he's wearing your Garrisaon Creed shirt while playing softball.
Nice.
So
that's awesome. Represent, brother. Represent.
Yeah. So just so you know, everybody on our network has been very thankful for everything you've done. and there's so many of us that have gone out and bought just a ton of your stuff. And
It's greatly appreciated, guys. And I mean, yeah, being part of the system, being part of the network with you guys now, I'm looking forward to doing some great things. Having some great interviews on, showing a different side of this soldier, as well as other soldiers that are out there in the open or even hidden in the professional wrestling business.
I love it. And so the one comment says, so Dave is saying back up the Brinks truck when he's talking about CM Punk. He's like, back up the Brinks truck.
All right.
Yeah. So my final question for you before we call it a show is, I know you go by the mercenary Garrisaon Creed. So I've always wondered, how difficult was it for you to come up with that name?
It wasn't really. I just kind of took different aspects of my life, kind of looked at them, seriously. Because I mean, how often do you get to choose your name and go by that? It's not an every person gets to do it type of thing. So I had some ideas in mind, some creative ideas, creative inspiration, along with just a little happenstance. And I got something that's stuck and it sticks. Now everybody, they know the entrance music when it hits. They know the up tempo my matches are going to be, and kind of catching wind of now I'm hitting up a lot of Tennessee promotions and getting there and finding people that took the time to look me up and see everything and find out I was in the area and come now to an area that I haven't looked at before just to see me is it's remarkable. It's going right back to being humbling.
I love it. So let's say you ever got signed by WWE or AEW. Is that something like, could you go in there and be like, I want to keep my name, or would they say, you might have to change it?
I would want to keep all aspects of what I got going on. Because like I said, my emphasis right now, the person I am portraying, I'm portraying as best as I can, real. Is it out there kind of character? But yeah, sorry, but I am that way in real life. Some things in the military and other services overseas that would cringe some other people, but it's a very rock star style life that I've had, and I'm just going to do more professional wrestling thing and showing everybody that, hey, this is real. I'm a real character, and this is the way that I am, always been.
So do you actually get a choice? Like, if you get signed, you have no idea.
I mean, they also decided whether or not they're going to sign the check or not. So it really comes down to whose choice is whose.
Right. No, I was just curious. Like, if somebody ever got signed, if they come out and say, "Do you want to keep your name, or we don't like that name and we're going to change it to this?" I've always wondered about how much choice somebody actually has in that.
I think about it too, and I'm not exactly sure.
All right. I like it. Well, we all look forward to working with you on this network. We look forward to seeing your new, your rejuvenized show, as you would like to say it. Because from what you're telling me, man, it's going to be fantastic, and I definitely cannot wait to see it. You're saying at the end of May, at the beginning of June. Is that correct?
Yeah, end of May, beginning of June. I'm hopefully having the interview done. I'm still waiting on a couple of OKs from those involved to make sure that it's all clear sailing and we don't hit up any hiccups or anything legal mumbo jumbo. And I'm really looking forward to it. You guys are gonna love the guy lined up to do it. He's got an in-depth history himself, and it'll be a great way to kick off the Reloaded shooting range.
I love it. So can you give us a catchphrase? Any catchphrase? We want to hear a catchphrase out there.
Oh, for me or for the shooting range? No, I got one for you for the shooting range. Don't forget to take a couple of shots while you're there.
I love it. Okay. How about a wrestling catchphrase? Do you have one, or you have one that's your favorite?
Not really. I just like to go into the ring and punch people in the face.
I love it. All right. Well, we want to thank you again for coming out, and coming on this brand new network. It's going to be a pleasure to have you out there. Do you have any new merch that is coming out anytime soon?
I got some in the works. If you catch me live at shows, I brought back the popular survival style braided bracelets, 554 braided bracelets. People have been asking for those. Always have dog tags on hand. Got the t-shirts over at prowrestlingtees.com, as well as a plethora of stuff, hoodies, t-shirts, blankets, pillows over at bootandheel.com.
Well, let's see. I've already got the blanket. I've got the pillow. I've got the T-shirt. I've got the sweatshirt. I need
You need something new.
I do. I need.
Maybe some
I
zip
need
ups.
you. Maybe a zip up or come up with some kind of beanie or hat because I love beanies or hats.
I did have beanies for a bit. They were popular. I don't know how to set one of those up on one of the online things, but there we go. There's another idea. Something I can work on.
Beanies, yes. Get a beanie. I love it. It'll be there, and I will get one the minute you say it's out. I'm going to get me a beanie.
All right, man. All right.
All right, and maybe some pants. And maybe some pants.
I've had some requests for booty shorts.
Okay, I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm not doing the booty shorts, but if you get some kind of pants like jeans or maybe some sweatpants or something, I'll go for that. But I'm not doing the booty shorts.
To each their own, man. To each their own.
That's right. But thank you very much for coming on the show again, and we'll definitely look forward to having you again in the future. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a fantastic night, and good luck in your future matches.
You guys take it easy. Thank you again for having me on.
Thank you. All right, Chris, take us out.